are you doing? It's the second leg of the Back to the Black tour.
Yeah, really good. I mean, hometown shows are always great, so really excited. And this one's sold out, so it's going to be really, really nice show today.
And how's it touring with Aborted and Bonded Blood? You're sharing this tour bus with them.
It's awesome, man. They're really killer guys and they're good bands. Couldn't ask for a better set of supports. Like they've really made the tour special this time.
So who's the hardest drinker?
Who's the hardest drinker? Oh, see, any of the Bonded by Blood guys, except if we're talking bandmates, yeah. If we're talking bands, it's probably Bonded by Blood because they all get drunk quite a lot. If we're talking, I mean, our crew, our drum tech and guitar tech, and like I'll just get on it every day. So they're the main suspects.
You said crew, Massive Music. I think they're doing a tremendous job putting all these tours and managing also you guys later. So what do you think of them? How is it working with them?
Well, Massive Music is run by Marius Kamiawork, and he goes way back with Pete from Vader. So it's more than just he's our manager. It's Pete and Marius are like that, pretty much. So it's a bit different from any other management situation. We'd never get a better management basically because Marius all of Massive started for Vader, I think, but they're doing a great job with other bands now as well, like Deicide, Christian.
Next month Deicide are touring.
Yep. Marduk as well. They have Rotting Christ. Lots of the really good extreme metal bands in the underground.
Yeah, I remember last year I saw Malvern Creation, Vital Remains, and the Sounds of Extreme tours.
That was
amazing,
great.
Bill. I know you've been for like 2 years now in Vader, or 3?
Year and a half.
Year and a half.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a bit longer. So how important is touring for Vader?
It is. It's the most important thing. I mean, if you ever speak to Pete about it, he's always saying that for him, music should always be live. So it's probably the most important part of Vader is just getting out and playing shows.
Yeah.
Even more important than the records for us, I think. But it's always good to have more things to play.
And it's probably more important now, especially with the CD sales low for most bands.
Oh yeah, but that's just how it is, Like Vader was always about touring, even when CDs were being bought.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
true. Yeah.
But it does help us out. Granted, if we tour all the time, it does help.
All right. Obviously, but on this tour you're playing Black to the Blind classic album and Southeast, the EP, in their entirety. Is it more difficult to perform or prepare a whole album, or than a best of set list?
No, not at all. I mean, it's exactly the same, because you don't approach a set list. Well, I mean, I tend to approach a set list as an album anyway, or as a whole. So you just learn the individual songs, and then you've learnt the set. So it's the same with learning an album. It's not. Yeah. It's not a 30-minute long song or something. There's nothing that sets it. It's still just 10 songs. So it's just 10 new songs to learn, or a few other new songs to learn. So it's not. There's nothing different in the approach to learning the stuff.
Yeah.
Really.
So when you first auditioned for Vader, did you already know a lot of their songs to play? Or
yeah, because I toured supporting Vader, so I knew the kind of songs that they were likely to throw at me, which was a good start. Also, I've been a fan of Vader now since early 2005, so I guess that's now 8 years? Yeah. 8 years, so I've been listening to Vader for a long time as well. Yeah. So back then that was 2000, so it would have been 6 years.
6 years. Yeah.
When I did my audition, I was listening to Vader for around 6 years, so I'm kind of familiar with a lot of the songs, which obviously is a big help. if you've only got a few days to learn some stuff. Still up and running, still going.
Yeah.
Divine Chaos have got an album on the way. Written in Waters have an album out, and both are sort of looking to get on the gigs a lot. I mean, Written in Waters, we have a session drummer, so it's very easy. Divine Chaos, we're just waiting for the album to be released, and then we can start up with touring and gigging again.
Alright.
Oh, hang on. This is Malzo. I mean, it's physically different. What I have to do is physically more demanding, playing more extreme music for longer periods of time. But really, just psychologically, it's exactly the same. You're just playing a show. Doesn't matter if it's to 10 people or to 10,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's still a show. It's still got to be your main focus for that half an hour, for that hour, for whatever it is.
Right.
So it doesn't really change as much. It's just different music.
Yeah. So it wasn't hard adapting or anything.
Physically, yeah. Physically, but you know, if you do something every day for a while, eventually you get better.
Yeah.
So
true.
it's
practice makes perfect.
exactly. So you know, it's not really, not really difficult to adapt. Like, everybody was really friendly, and all I had to do is just keep practicing by playing shows all the time, and just gradually getting better all the time. So.
And I know you weren't with Vader back then in '98. Was it '98 when Black to the Blind was released?
97.
97. Yeah. Live in Japan was '98. Yeah. I always confuse it too. Anyway, but how much of an impact? I mean, looking from a historical point of view, how much of an impact did it have on the metal scene? In your opinion?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the first 3 albums in particular are sort of still the most respected from what I can gather from the old school fans and from everything. But it's just kind of another. I mean, historically, it's just another album in Vader's catalogue. It's just not. I don't think it's any better or any worse than a lot of Vader's albums.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's a really, really solid album, really great album. I don't think it was released that widely because it's always been really difficult to get hold of De Profundis and Black to the Blind.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it had an opportunity to have an impact, as it were. I can't really speak for the Polish scene, being English, and would have only been 6 or 7 at the time. But I think in the Polish scene it would have had a much stronger impact because it was much more technical than. Well, it was a combination. De Profundis was much more technical, and Black to the Blind was a combination of was technical but still way faster. It was a big up in speed, and so especially in terms of drumming, that definitely would have pushed a lot of younger drummers in the Polish scene to hit the same speeds and to push themselves in that way. So
and like now that you say that about Polish scene, don't you think that like the way the history of metal is presented, the Western bands are more dominating the scene and the history of metal, the way it's looked upon. I mean, obviously there are many people like me or probably you or anyone who also likes to discover other bands, but don't you think, like, especially because it was a divide between East and West, and Poland was communism, totalitarian dictatorship and all that, so what do you think about that? I mean, because Vader were established in '83, and
so you're talking about communism essentially, and being the other side of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah, and that's how these bands didn't get recognized until way later, or maybe didn't get recognized at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, we didn't have. I mean, the main thing is there was just no internet, and there was no way of knowing about this kind of stuff unless you were there. That's really the main thing. And it definitely, communism definitely, that the Berlin Wall, that divide definitely affected it. But Vader, I mean, let me put it this way: in the modern music scene, we're talking bands, not pop, but not sort of not commercial music exactly, but it takes an overnight success, about 8 years on average, to happen. So Vader had been going for 10 years when they did their first album in the UK, I recorded that, and then they subsequently toured with Bolt Thrower.
Yeah.
So they're kind of on par, you know. Like, they've been going for a long time, but a lot of bands have before they break. Like, even in the West, you know, Symphony X have only just signed to Nuclear Blast in 2011. They've been going since fuck knows when, since like 94. Same with Porcupine Tree. They've only just in the last 5 years got massive. In Norway, Dimmu Borgir took around 2001 is when it kind of kicked off for them with Puritanical, and they've been going since 93. So if you think about it that way,
it's always
there's always a long time of nothing before, or a long time of much lower recognition before you get to that level. So I mean, even though communism definitely has hindered that, especially the Polish scene, it's definitely hindered that. But the timing is worked out okay. It's not. I mean, if Vader were in the West, I mean, they could have quite easily only been discovered
just now,
or they could, it could still have taken them 10 years. Is what I'm saying. You know, so
there's.
I mean, you can't say how it would be different if it was any other way. It just is how it is now.
I stay awake, transmuting my quicksilver blood.
Many people say that, Black Sabbath did this, Slayer did this, and Judas Priest, and that's that influences people to create music. But I mean, but we also forget that, I mean, it's also like everyday things that influences people, like the environment, weather, or whatever. So
it depends on the kind of band you are. I mean, if you want to go down that route, I mean, really everything influences everything. Like, what you had for breakfast can influence stuff, but really, it does. It depends a lot. If you're a politically motivated band, then obviously politics are going to be a big thing. It depends on the band itself and the people in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, with Vader, it's just about playing live. That's the motivation, and that's what we do.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to get to is that if, for example, if these bands didn't exist, like at the beginning, Black Sabbath, Slayer, I mean, wouldn't we still have some kind of heavy music?
Yeah, we totally would. I mean, if Sabbath and Priest hadn't done it, someone else would have done it eventually. Because it just would have happened, really. I mean, through one way or another. I mean, the bands would be different and lots of other things would be different, but I think heavy music would still happen eventually, because it's just how some people vent aggression, and how some people, that's what it always starts as.
Yeah.
You know, punk was just the same kind of thing. It's just a means of getting your anger out and making your anger felt. So I don't think that, I do think that metal would have happened at some point.
At our site at metalrequisance.com, we'll be starting a new series of articles about sexism in metal.
Right.
Do you have anything to say about this topic? Is it something that seems to be tackled, or is it already?
Does it need to be tackled? I don't think it's sexism that's the problem, because I don't think a lot of bands I know would object to having a female member if they were good enough, or even two. Again, if they're the right person for the band and if they're a good enough player, then yeah, sure. But I think what it is it's just quite a masculine. It's just quite a masculine style of music. It's quite a. You look at the Vulgar Display of Power album. The punch to the face. This is quite a masculine display. That's you don't see many women in punch-ups.
Yeah, true.
Right, that's.
But
like, it happens, and that's fine. But just because it's just more men on average just do it.
Yeah.
I don't think sexism is really there. I think it's quite easy to look for sexism when it's just a heavily, or it's predominantly a male environment.
So,
but
you also see a lot of women behind the scenes doing a lot of the management, PR, and.
If you're good at that, then do it. If you're good at playing, then do that. There are plenty of female managers that are terrible, and there are plenty of male managers that are also terrible. There are plenty of male managers that are great, and plenty of female managers that are great. Metal is pretty open to everyone. It's just it's about who wants to do it and not.
Yeah.
No one is excluded. Well, I say that. I'm sure some people are. I'm sure there are definitely places in the world where sexism is still a big issue, and sexism, I'm sure, still happens a lot on a daily basis to a lot of people. But it's quite easy to look for it when I don't think it's there. It's just there's just a lot of guys. It's just a bit of a sausage fest. It's because everybody here who's doing metal is doing it because they want to. That's really the bottom line. I don't know many women that want to go into this.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Yeah. So yeah.
So I'm not going to force that. I'm not going to force women to go and start playing metal if they don't want to.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. But yeah. So you don't see it as it's just. I just think that's just how it is. Women just aren't attracted to playing metal as much because. But also, don't you think because metal always has always seemed that people take it as this alternative to the mainstream, which is, but the way that many bands present themselves, and with the with half-naked girls and music videos and album covers and with in magazines, metal chick of the year. So that's it's also
Well, yeah, but I think that's more the media of it than that. When it comes to actually playing metal.
Yeah.
And that metal chick of the year. We don't do that in Vader.
Yeah,
we don't get someone on stage.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
No, I know, but it's more like the playing, the musical side of it. There's none of that. It's just about if you're good enough and if you want to do it.
Yeah.
There is sexism in that respect, yeah, but you get the same thing in Nuts.
Yeah.
Where it's not metal chick of the year, it's just chick of the year or whatever. All they've done is put the word metal in front of it, and all of a sudden now metal is sexist.
Yeah, it's true. But don't you think if maybe that there was a bit less of that, would women?
I don't I don't read a lot of this stuff. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm too busy being on the road, playing for, like, you know, doing metal for real. I'm not. I don't need to read about it. I'm fucking out there doing it every day.
Yeah.
So if there was less of it or more of it, I wouldn't even notice.
Yeah.
There should. I mean, with things like that, there should kind of always really be less of that stuff, because it's just not great. Really, it's just not very nice for people. But you know, I don't think that's exclusive to metal, and I don't read. I think that's more of a media thing than the metal. I think it's a media thing where they just put metal in front of stuff to associate it with metal, when real metal people don't do that. You know, if you look at the top metal bands, they don't have to resort to bringing out the naked girls, you know, or whatever. It's more of a it strikes me as more of a media trick than a.
Yeah, but you always have a.
You're always going to have Yeah, but that's totally. That's I would say that's a bit different.
Because it's also the type of music. Right?
The type of the music, and also the time in which. You know, Lemmy's pretty fucking old school. Being Lemmy. You know, he's still living the sex, drugs, rock and roll lifestyle, which is a myth now, but he's still living in that time because that's where he's from. So that's. I'm not going to say fine, but it is kind. You know, it's more understandable. You know.
It's easier to accept.
Yeah. It's easy, like. But I mean, I don't really pay attention to that stuff, you know. I mean, I don't go to Motorhead shows. I listen to Motorhead. I don't, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. You said old school now. So, do you think like the true rock and roll way of life has died away? I mean, for bands and.
I mean, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You look at the people that lived the sex, drugs, rock and roll lifestyle. In the 80s, like Motley Crue or the Rolling Stones or whatever. We were talking about this today on the bus, and apparently in the book The Dirt, you know, Motley Crue's book, like for the album Girls, 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 there's just 2 pages because that's all they remember.
Really?
And yeah, it's just like, well, we did an album and that's about it. Like, we don't even remember that. That's pretty much it, you know. And you see the state they're all in now.
Yeah.
Like, if you're doing metal and you want to do it for a long time, then you kind of got to stay away from that stuff a little. I'm not gonna do the whole drugs are bad kind of thing, but you know, just don't be a dick with this stuff. Don't go overboard all the time, because it's gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
Like, people seem to still be really surprised when they say, "Oh, I did all these drugs. I, you know, had sex with loads of girls and you know, all this kind of stuff, and now I've got STI, like millions of STIs, and I'm really fucked up." Like, and they still seem surprised by that. It's like, well, yeah.
No surprise.
So, it's become a bit more professional. This is like when money becomes involved. Really, when metal becomes a bit more of a business, this is the good side of it. This is the upside, is that people, you know, are a bit more smart.
Yeah.
Because you know, in the early days when all these bands just got money, they were like, "Fuck, we just got all this money. What are we going to do with it?" And you know, but people are a bit more now that it's been going on for a while. People are just getting a bit smarter with it, and they're going, right, well, we can get a bit drunk every now and then, but we're not going to go.
Yeah.
You know, not going to shoot heroin or anything. So I think that's important.
I still aside, I stay away, transmuting my quicksilver blood. The diamond exhaust. The diamond insane mentality, scrappy work, something so
And back to Vader. Do you have any updates on a new album or the work on it?
It's happening. It's coming. It should be out at the end of the year, start of next year. The working title at the moment is Straight to Hell, and that's really all I got for you at the moment.
Right.
We got some. We're chatting to a producer in the UK for. We're thinking about doing the drums here in the UK this time, and then finishing the rest off in Poland. But we'll just see how it goes.
All right.
There's a long time until we record it. We've got a lot of tours to finish before we go into the studio. So,
are you taking part in the writing process and everything, or?
Well, a lot of the work's done in the studio. So, basically, a lot of the writing that I'm going to do is going to happen there.
All right.
You can't record an album without contributing something. You just can't. You can't, even if you're doing a pop session. Just the way you play, it will be a contribution. No one else will play quite exactly like that. That's almost your contribution. Like your essence. So even if you're playing exactly what the part is, you still have your kind of essence on the record. That's why the great, famous pop drummers like Steve Gadd and stuff have a particular feel, a particular style, and they get loads of work.
All right. Yeah, that's true.
So there'll always be a contribution, even if I don't write anything.
All right.
There'll still be a contribution to the process of the writing process.
All right, cool. So tonight's show, like your set is extended by 15 minutes.
No, it's not. It's 15 minutes. It's 75 minutes. It's been 75 minutes.
It's been like that. All right.
All
right, because Iron Promotions posted that because one band cancelled.
We were going to have 60 minutes, but that was going to be odd. That was going to be a short show for us rather than. So now we're back to a normal show.
All right, cool. But did you have any other these kind of incidents where you had to play a longer set, or
play a longer set? Well,
or is it shorter usually?
Last year we took a 90-minute show on the road.
Right.
That was a bit extreme.
Yeah. How do you prepare for it? Or just you say you're going to play these songs?
You just warm up and you play the songs.
Yeah.
You just do it. I had about around a year and a half in Vader by that point, so I was used to what I was putting my body through.
Yeah.
So you just fucking do it. You just shut up and do it. If you don't complain about it, just get on with it.
Yeah. Don't complain about it. I guess that's
the time you spend complaining about it, you could have been warming up. So just warm up
and do it.
And do it. That's really there really is no secret to this kind of stuff. You just, if it's physically tough, grit your teeth and go for it. Right. That's it.
That's cool. It's good attitude. And so that's all. Do you have anything to say to our readers, your fans and fans of Vader?
Yeah, support your local metal scene. It's really, really important to start going to local shows. That means everyone. Local shows, and if you like the band, buy their merch, buy the CDs, listen and keep going to more gigs and finding more bands, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to build a scene in your area for this kind of stuff. And if you want more and bigger bands to come to your areas, you have to do that first.
Still aside, I stay away, transmuting my quicksilver blood.